Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. So there was a huge recruiting weekend for the LSU football team over the weekend that resulted in a commitment. Billy Emboy and Shea Dixon covered all for the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 network, and Billy joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Billy, how are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing very well. Tell me what this weekend was from a recruiting perspective for LSU.
Yeah, this was a huge weekend for LSU on the recruiting front. They had a lot of their top targets in to visit this past weekend, whether it be, working out with the Battle New Orleans tournament happening, where a lot of these top 7-on-7 teams were coming through as well. And so it panned out where guys had an easy trip, or they were just able to get guys in to see spring practice on Thursday and Friday. They pretty much had guys on campus for 3-ish straight days, it seemed like. So the staff definitely put in some hours on that front between spring ball and recruiting. And they really had a very, very impressive group come through Baton Rouge to check out the program. And they came away with one public commitment so far, and they just continue to stay hot. They're doing a really nice job in the 2025 class, laying the groundwork in those future classes. And this was a big weekend for that.
I think a lot of people are very, very familiar with the three number one players, Harlan Berry, DeCorian Moore, Bryce Underwood, all the best player at their offensive position in the country. Is that resonating with other members of this recruiting cycle, that LSU's got the big name players already committed?
I think so. And LSU is not, seeing a guy like a Bryce Underwood commit in quite a few years. And when you have him leading the way now that he's on board, it does just give you an overall boost in credibility. Not that, back-to-back 10-win seasons doesn't do that for you when you're Brian Kelly and his staff, but it does help just as a recruiting buzz and trying to build that buzz. That really does help. And you stack a DeCorian Moore and a Harlan Berry in there as well, and it just shows you're going to have tons of offensive firepower to go with your recruiting class. And that's certainly helpful for a lot of these guys when they're weighing out their decisions and things like that. And we're seeing Blake Baker and his staff on the defensive side find their footing as well and start to stack up some talent too. So it definitely helps. And with those guys being, I would say, as locked in as they are, even DeCorian Moore, who's going to take some official visits, is pretty adamant that he's loving what LSU is giving him the opportunity to do with Bryce Underwood, Harlan Berry, and live out a childhood dream. These guys are all pretty locked in and recruiting for LSU and always out there in the public doing so. So it's a really impressive trio, and yeah, absolutely helps Brian Kelly and his staff.
You mentioned the one public commitment that was from Charles Ross, a 4-star linebacker from the Houston area. What else can you tell us about Charles Ross?
Yeah, Charles Ross is one of the fastest linebackers in the country. He's out of Houston North Shore, which, gave LSU Caleb on Chasson and has really been good to LSU at times throughout, the last, couple decades now. And for Charles Ross, he's really kind of blown up. And Blake Baker is somebody that liked him a lot when he was at Missouri. And when he got to LSU and he went through his recruiting rounds in January, said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and offer him. And now he's dropped, multiple sub 10-7, 10-6, even 100-meter times. So when you're looking at a guy that is about 6'2", 200 and can move like that, you're bringing a lot of speed right away to this defense, which you need in the SEC. And he was pretty productive for this North Shore team that went all the way to state last year. They've got a ton of talent year in, year out. And so he was one that as Blake Baker extended that offer that we had circled at the Bengal Tiger that could very well end up in the class just from the relationships that were built early on and that proximity to home. And so when he got to LSU this past weekend, it was one we had our eye on. And sure enough, Blake Baker got him to go public. He's really excited about it and announced his commitment late Saturday night.
Speaking of linebacker, the number one linebacker by On3, 5-star Jonah Williams from Texas. Number 2 linebacker in On3 is a Georgia product, Tavian Wallace. Those two guys are in Baton Rouge as well. Any chance for the Tigers to land one of the top 2 linebackers in the country?
Yeah, they took steps in the right direction, I think, with both. And Jonah's an interesting one because he's a big baseball guy. So he checked out some of the LSU football and baseball sides of things while he was there. He's being recruited at safety, and that's where he really wants to be recruited by these colleges. He feels like his athleticism will allow him to be a safety at the next level, which, we'll track as he grows up and all of those things. But he is very, very talented. He's got a bunch of schools after him. I think he's still pretty open, and LSU took some steps in the right direction to stay in the mix there. And then Tavion Wallace is somebody that the last staff was on pretty heavily and recruiting him hard and had him on campus for a visit, I believe, in the fall last year. So there's kind of some good early groundwork being laid there. He's still one that has 4 official visits elsewhere set already, so you'd like to see him set an LSU official visit if they're going to stay in the hunt there. His brother, Trevin Wallace, is going to be a draft pick out of Kentucky and was really, really talented coming out of high school as well. And Tavion has a lot of that, and we like him a lot, like you said, as a number 2 linebacker. But, again, just a lot of positivity on that one, and we'll kind of see how it goes and if they can get an official set.
You mentioned in your kind of opening comments there about this weekend that LSU got one public commitment. Would you expect here over the next week or so some activity on LSU's side?
Yeah, I don't know the timing on it just yet, but they are trending well for a couple more big targets, and who knows when some of these guys want to make their decisions public. But we're hearing good things. We're hearing good things. So we'll see if those in fact do go through. But anytime you get guys on campus and they do give you a decision, that's obviously big. You want to see them obviously take the next step and go public. And some guys have their process that they're following and their maybe their own way of doing it too. That might take a little bit more time than back in some days when it was just make a Twitter post or whatever. Right. Now it's videos or now it's whatever else is going on.
You gotta have the edit. You gotta have the edit put up.
Yeah, the live stream, whatever you want these days. So sometimes it does take a little bit longer, but we are keeping a close eye on a couple guys.
What are the odds LSU lands the number 1 class in the country in this cycle?
Yeah, I would say pretty good, just because they have laid themselves, they have set themselves up so well with landing those high profile number 1 prospects in Bryce Underwood, Ja'Cory Moore, Harlem Berry. That's a piece of the puzzle when it comes to landing a number 1 class. Is you do get rewarded for landing the number 1 overall prospects at their positions. I mean, you can do it elsewhere or other ways, with stacking like, a 2, a 3, and a 5 and things like that at certain positions that help. But, when you have the number 1 guys, it does help set you up pretty well. And they're trending with a lot of their top targets that could very well allow them to have the number 1 class. But you look across their recruiting board and they, I would say, entering the back half of spring, have a really good shot with most of the guys that they're recruiting heavily, which is where you want to be. And I guess however that shakes out, we'll see rankings-wise how that pans out when it comes to getting that number 1 class. But they're battling some really high-end competition for pretty much their entire board. And so if they came away with most of those guys, that would be a really impressive recruiting haul without a doubt.
I know you'll be all over it start to finish. He's Billy Emboy, part of the Bengal Tiger over on 3, joining us here, talking some recruiting. Thanks, Billy.
Thanks a lot, Hunter. I appreciate it.
If y'all are into recruiting, I can't recommend the Bengal Tiger enough. Shay's got a huge piece up today called The Prowl, talking about the entire weekend. There are names galore listed there. They don't mean a ton to me because I don't follow it quite as closely as a lot of y'all do, but it's impressive the amount of talent that LSU is getting committed in this class. I do know that, and so that's very, very exciting for Brian Kelly's program. If you want to check it out, you can over on the Bengals. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button. Leave your comments below and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.